Okay, I think we better get started. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. If you can't, feel free to just pop something into the chat. But we'll get going, and we are recording as well. So the recording will be sent out after today's session, just in case anyone wasn't able to make it, so they'll be able to check out the recording whenever they want to. And I'm actually just going to share my screen with you guys. Okay. Let me know if anyone's having any trouble seeing that, but I'm going to assume that we're all good. Excellent. So thank you so much for attending today, and welcome to today's webinar. So my name's Lucy. I am a global launch specialist at EdApp, and the whole point of today's webinar is to help kickstart the launch of EdApp at your organization. So we understand, obviously, it can be quite challenging bringing in new technology into your organization, and we have lots of helpful resources to get you started, and that's kind of the main reason of us putting on today's webinar. So hopefully by the end of today, you should have an understanding on the key steps to launch, as well as having some top tips to get you to the point of being ready to launch. And like I said, after today's session, we'll send you out an email with the deck, the recording, and lots of extra material that I'll reference throughout the session. And we also have some of our amazing CSM team on the call. So if you do have any questions, we want it to be super interactive. So there's the chat, there's the Q&A section. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you like, and they'll answer them for you. And I'll leave some time at the end as well to just read some out on the call if we have any. Awesome. So let's then move on to my next slide. So here's the agenda for today. So these are the 4 main steps that you will need to accomplish an effective launch at your organization. And each section that we go through today will also highlight a bit of a customer story, so you can see the impact of each element in practice. So let's begin with content. As you know, we are based around the principles of microlearning at EdApp, and the whole point of microlearning is to make things bite-sized, have lessons that are completable in about 5 minutes. And obviously, as we're an app, we are mobile first, just because we know that mobiles are on the go, they're easy to access wherever, whenever, but we also do work on desktop. So no problem if you have like a mostly desktop-based workforce. But we've realized that microlearning, the reason we're like based around it is because it works for so many of our clients, just like the Wonderful Company. So for those who don't know the Wonderful Company, they're a privately owned business that's worth $5 billion, and they own brands such as Fiji Water and Paramount Pistachios and Almonds. So let's look at some of their key stats that they've achieved since using EdApp. So they switched their key programs to microlearning. They created 20+ courses in just a couple of weeks. Their average lesson takes around 10 minutes to complete, so less than 10 minutes as well. And they've got 96% course completion rates, and they found that they've improved the average knowledge of retention rate from 70 to 90% compared to the average retention rate of traditional learning that was just 15%. So we can see some really great stats like coming through from companies like the Wonderful Company and lots of others as well. And you can see how microlearning is really creating such a powerful impact. So let's talk about how you can get this started in your own company. Now, I'm going to be honest, content is always the bit that takes the longest in terms of launch process, because we know it's the most important, and organizations just want to get it right. So we provided all the tools to make it as painless and hopefully as least time consuming as possible. We have a couple of routes to creating content on EdApp, and the first one I wanted to talk about was the content library. So this is actually available in all accounts on EdApp, and here is where we have hundreds of courses that are available for you to use in your learning program. And from EdApp itself, we add around 20 courses per month, and then we also have contributions from the general public. It's really, really simple to find a course. You can use our search tool, or you can go by the different kind of categories that we have on the left-hand side. And once you've selected it, you can just pull it into your account, change anything that you like, add some branding, and then get it straight out to your learners. So it can literally take a matter of minutes depending on how much you want to change. And the best thing about this content library is it's all free to use and there's no extra charge for any of the content. So we have the ones with the white tiles, which are completely editable. And then the ones with the dark blue tiles are from our partnership clients, and they will give content into our content library, again free for you to use, but you just can't change anything in them. So there's lots of stuff in there. I'd always recommend regularly keeping up to date with what we've got going on in the content library, because there's always more courses for you to choose from. So the other route that you can use to get content onto EdApp is our PowerPoint uploader. So this is one of our most powerful tools on EdApp, and we understand that the way that you may have kind of traditionally been doing training would have been face-to-face or screen-to-screen with COVID. So we have many I understand that you probably have like many PowerPoint files that kind of go alongside that training. So with our upload feature, it takes a lot of the heavy lifting off your plate, which allows you to just do like a simple click upload. All the content will then be transferred into EdApp, requires a bit of tweaking, branding, and then you basically have a whole new course ready for you to put out to your learners in no time. So obviously both of these are powered by our authoring tool, which is super user-friendly. It's effective, intuitive, and we understand that this can be a little bit kind of daunting to look at when you first start. So we actually have weekly webinars about our authoring tool and how to use it that you can attend for free. We'll send those links out in the email after today's session, but I recommend getting into the authoring tool, having a play around with it, because you'll see how quickly you can get used to it and how easy it will be to use. And just as a side note as well, we do have a lot of in-house training kind of support. So what that means is if you want us to do the content production for you, then we can do that. It obviously comes at an additional fee, but if you think that's something that would be useful for you because you just don't have the resources to do it yourself, then just reach out to us via live chat or support@edapp.com, and we can get someone to reach out with some more pricing on that. Cool. So I also wanted to touch a bit on branding. So you can see some great examples of how creative you can be with branding on EdApp just from these examples on my screen. So we have an awesome integration with Canva, which is a fantastic design tool that can help you make amazing graphics like this, even with like limited design capabilities. So we will be sending through after in our kind of follow-up email about some plug and play capabilities with branding. You can use something that we call CSS on EdApp. So what that does is it will change the colors of some of the buttons, or it will change the type of font that you're using. So you can see in all three of these examples, they're using slightly different fonts. So you can do all of that with what we call CSS. So we'll give you some kind of cheat sheet code to use in your account, and it's literally just choosing 3 colors, and that's it. The code takes care of the rest of it. But this is also something you can learn about on our support site and within that authoring webinar as well, to make it seem a lot more easier than it looks when you first take a look at it. Great. So let's move on to our content top tips. So my first tip is we always recommend launching with 2 courses. And the reason we say 2 is because the first thing is you don't want to overwhelm your learners when they first come onto the platform. So within these 2 courses, we always recommend there's a certain course in our content library called Learner Introduction to EdApp. Free for you to use in that content library we discussed a couple of slides ago. But how that works is it is basically a very short lesson that teaches your learners about how to use EdApp, what it is and how it works. But it's just a really great one for them to get started with, because just gives them that basis of knowledge to kind of go from there. Then your other course could be something from the content library, or it could be a more specialized, customized course. It's kind of up to you, but we always think 2 is best to give them enough content, but not too much to overwhelm them. We also talked about on the last slide branding your content. So the reason we say to brand your content is just to make it feel like it's more part of your company, so that your learners can relate to that content and then they can associate it more with their role. So just continuously providing that brand identity to them can really be done through just adding brand to your courseware and EdApp in general. And then finally, let's talk about the content plans for ongoing success. So we see programs fail when there's just not enough content for learners to take part in. And you really want to adopt a learning culture in the organizations where learners will create a learning habit to check their EdApp on a regular occasion in order to just get more content and learn more. So we've come up with some great kind of outlines to help you create some kind of content plan. And let's have a look at that now. So we recommend putting together some kind of content release calendar. And this will help to not only ensure you're creating learning habits for your team, because you have come up with some kind of plan for the whole year, but it also helps to keep you organized as an admin. And the great thing, and it's also a great thing to show your senior leadership team. So you can see where we recommend like 2 courses per month. But if you think that that's not enough and you want to do more, then you can always add more. But it's more about the principle of creating some kind of plan for an ongoing kind of continuous learning program. So let's look at an example with the company Marriott. So in month 1, they do the Learner Introduction to EdApp course, and they also do the Creating a Positive Customer Experience course. So those are both from our content library, and that could literally take them a matter of 5 minutes to set those up. Cool. And then we also, after that, have every month then bringing out 2 courses and a rapid refresh. So for those who don't know what rapid refresh is, it's one of our optional quiz features that you can use to have a really engaging way to test learner knowledge levels, spot gaps in their capabilities. And we can send through some more information on this after today's session, but we usually recommend using rapid refresh for a course like a month after you put it out to kind of slow down that forgetting curve for each learner. So you can see in all of these different examples, the cool thing about it is that in each month, we actually have at least 1 course coming from the content library. So you have so much to play with in terms of creating your own personalized stuff or stuff from our content library, and just making sure that you're organized and you have enough courses coming for your learner is really the key here. So on that note, that ends our content section of the webinar. So just to recap, we recommend 2 courses for launch, and then that's 2 per month after. And you're always welcome to release more content on a more frequent basis, but just don't overload the learners too much. The second recommendation is to brand your courses to make them feel more in line with your brand identity. And then the final one, as we've just discussed, is to create a plan for the rest of the year. Awesome. If anyone has any questions, like I said, keep popping them into the chat and our CSM team will be getting back to you. But otherwise, we're going to move on to user management. And I first want to talk about Esperanza, who really understand the need for easy access for their learners. So for any of those who don't know who Esperanza are, they're a charity who provide education to people in areas such as the Dominican Republic who are living in poverty to teach them business skills through EdApp. So as you can see, they've helped over 1,300 families during COVID thanks to mobile learning. They produce courses on basics of business principles, preventative healthcare, continuing education, and much more. And they have 2,000 active users with over 80 courses in their account. So some really great stuff coming out of Esperanza there. And let's talk about then how easy it is for you to get your learners up and running on the platform. And I think the best place to start would be talking about user groups. So user groups are a way to segment learners on EdApp for content assignment, but also for reporting purposes. So learners a couple of things to know about user groups. Learners can be in more than one group, so you don't have to limit them to one if you have like a hierarchy that means they should be in multiple. You can also assign our manager capability on EdApp. So what this means is you can give someone the manager role on EdApp, and then they are able to see all the analytics for those in their user group. So for example, I could make a user group called London, And then I could create a manager who is the manager of that user group called London. And then that means that they can see all their team members in London and how they're doing on their specific courseware. And the real benefit of this is it will take the pressure off you as an admin and it allows managers to chase their own teams. So the great thing about using that manager role, it means as well, you can create hierarchies within EdApp with user group collections. So if you have regional managers or area managers, you can give them the different access to the different tiers in order to let them see the most relevant thing. So start to think about how that could work in your organization. Do you think it's per job role? Do you think it's per location? Do you think it's per region? All of these kind of ideas will come together in order for you to decide which user group kind of outline you should have for your learners. And that will then define how they're going to get content assigned and how reporting will work for your different managers in your organization. So setting up the user groups would be the first step. And then after that, you can move on to actually getting your users into the platform. So a couple of questions here of deciding the route that you need to take in order to get your learners up and running. So we've got two main ways of getting them going. So the first is bulk uploads. And this is often if you know your learners' email addresses and you'd like to set everyone up before your launch. Then our other way is through an invite link or a QR code. So this is if you don't know your learners' email addresses and your organization has a high turnover. So whichever one kind of fits better to you, I'd recommend going with that. But if you kind of think the other way would be better, even if it doesn't really fit your organization, then go for that. So let's start with bulk upload. So you would probably have all your learner data in some kind of database or HR system. And what you can do is download our template off the EdApp system. And you just fill this in and with the data that you've got from your database or HR system. And this allows you then to be able to upload that information to EdApp. So from your area where you're keeping all your user information, the key things that we need is an email address, first name, last name, and then you can also, in this upload capability, choose to add those user groups. So that's why we set the user groups up first, because then you can actually add user groups in from here. So once you filled out all that information, you can see some top tips on the screen here around using the user upload CSV, which is the template I was talking about. We also recommend email and username being the same thing, just for clarity. If you want to send your learners your own email, then I would recommend setting up a password, which you can see on the right-hand side there. So if you were to send the email through EdApp, at the moment, it's not something that you can edit. So it just goes as a very generic email and it goes out there and then. So if you'd rather send the email out at a later date and you'd want to like brand it and send it through your own kind of channels, then I recommend creating that password so that you can just share that and then the learner can change that password when they first log in. So our password requirements are also on the screen here. So it must be 8 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, and a number or a special. And the system will throw you back an error if you don't make that requirements, but just so you guys are aware of it. Cool. So then our other way is through invite links or QR codes. And if you want to go down this route, it's really good for organizations with a high turnover, or if you don't know your users' email addresses, because it allows for self-sign up. So you can choose the information to collect from your learners, and you can also have different links per user groups. And what that means is if you created 2 user groups and you gave out the 2 different links, when a user uses a certain link, they just be automatically dropped into the user group that they've been given the link for. So it allows you to do all that organization, but putting it on the learners to sign themselves up. The cool thing about this as well is you have a customizable landing page. So this is an example of the landing page on the right-hand side, but you can change this image that's here on the right, and you can also change the logo where you're seeing EdApp at the moment. So any of that you want to add in just gives you an extra layer of like customizable capabilities. Awesome. So that brings us to the end of the user management section. So just to summarize, we recommend getting your user group sorted to support your learners' content assignment and your organization's reporting needs first. And then once that you've done that, you can choose to upload your learners or have them use the link to self-sign themselves up, depending on what suits your company. So we can be pretty flexible in that situation. Great. So let's now move on to gamification. And I know this is such a buzzword in the learning and development community at the moment, but it really is the ticket to higher completion rates. And we're going to see that with our first example of Pure Hockey. So for those who don't know, Pure Hockey is the largest retailer of hockey merchandise in the US, and they use gamification as a staple to their program. They've got a large Gen Z population, seasonal workforce, which is obviously very typical of retail, and they've realized that compelling usage can be a key issue among this group. So workers who have gamified learning as part of their training score 14% higher in skill assessment tests compared to those who don't. 72% of employees said that gamification motivates them to work harder, and learners check their leaderboards on average 3 times per day. And that's massive numbers for engagement for Pure Hockey. And I really think it's something that's doable for everyone. It's just really dependent on how you make that gamification work in your organization, because all organizations are different and they all require a different approach. So engagement driving completions, Pure Hockey uses leaderboards, achievements, games, and competitions to drive completion rates. So just some stats about Pure Hockey themselves. They have around 700 users registered. They have successfully integrated it with their pay system called Paylocity. They have around 1,200 plus app visits on average per month, and they have a 75% average completion rate, which is really awesome to see from like a younger workforce. So let's move on to these top tips to see how you can get some great usage, just like Pure Hockey does and so many of our other clients. So the first is start with the basics. We have loads and loads of features on EdApp to keep your learners engaged, and we know it can be quite overwhelming to begin with. So keep it simple, add more features as you get your learners used to the platform and you get more stuck into the admin side. Don't overwhelm everyone to start with. It's definitely something that can come. And we're always adding new features. We've got some great ones coming out this year, which we're going to touch on a bit at the end. But yeah, just start simple and then go from there. We also then recommend using leaderboards and custom achievements for launch. They're pretty simple to set up and effective with some awesome engagement across all industries that our clients are in. So they're probably 2 of the most staple ones that we recommend using. And then the last tip is to use these engagement features regularly. So lots of things on EdApp can be set and forget, but consistency and engagement will be key for your learners. So if you're using leaderboards, maybe think about using monthly leaderboards, or if you're using achievements, think about maybe some levels that you can use. So the learner has to complete specific 3 courses in order to get to the beginner level, or then they have to do another 6 courses to get to intermediate. So you can change the levels as your program grows. So for launch, some basics that we've recommended you do. Let's start by looking at leaderboards. So leaderboards are their own section in the Learners app, and learners can be part of multiple leaderboards at the same time. So how leaderboards work is they work with the scores that learners earn in lessons. So each lesson is going to be worth 100 points. And the points that learners can get is evenly distributed across the different question templates that they have in their lesson. So let's say I'm doing a lesson and it has 5 multiple choice questions. If I go in there as a learner, obviously it's evenly distributed. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. So each of these is going to be worth 20 marks. And if I go in as a learner and I get 3 of them right, that means that I'll get 60 points towards my leaderboard. And the cool thing about leaderboards is it doesn't take like a cumulative score every time you take the same lesson. It will always take your best score. So if I did 60 the first time and got 3 right, I then go in and I get 4 questions right. That means my score will be 80, and it replaces the 60 with the 80. So that's kind of how it works. And so it means the max they can ever get per lesson is 100 points. So thinking about where you can use that with launch, we recommend doing maybe like a launch leaderboard that runs for like a month. And at the end, whoever comes first, second, and third gets like a shout out in the internal like comms platform you guys use, or you can shout them out on EdApp through our banner functionality. Or if you had the budget, you could even give them a prize. And even though we know that like competition is a bit of a challenging one, everyone always rises to the occasion when there's like a coffee voucher or something free on the line. So I definitely recommend using it where possible. But it's also about thinking where you can consistently use leaderboards after that. So could you maybe do a monthly leaderboard or a quarterly leaderboard? And these can all just be set up to run over time. The great thing about leaderboards as well is you could have it like individual versus individual. So you could have a whole user group assigned to a leaderboard, or you could do team versus team as well if you wanted to go down that route. So there's lots of flexibility on leaderboards. And as it says on the slide, the more content, the more points, and the higher the person gets on the leaderboard. So these are all set up by the engagement tab, leaderboards, and then you can create a leaderboard there. And obviously it creates that competition to beat someone who's on top. And we all know people love to get a bit of bragging rights about being number one. So that's our leaderboards. The other one I wanted to quickly highlight was our achievements. And it's another easy one to set up because we've already actually curated a whole set of achievements for learners to earn on their journey. So if you go into the engagement tab, click on achievements, you'll see the generic ones that we have set up at EdApp. We have enough of them for them to be special, but not too many for them to lose impact. And as you can see of this GIF on the right hand side, when the learner achieves them, there's this kind of like confetti GIF that pops up in the background. It makes it really fun and interactive for them to learn. So they definitely give the learner a goal to strive towards, because they can head into their app to see which ones they haven't got yet and where they need to what they need to do in order to achieve them. They're customizable, so you can change the names, you can change the icons, you can change the colors, whatever you want to do, you can do that. You can create those mastery levels that I touched on earlier. So 3 courses being in the beginner level, 6 courses in the intermediate, and then 10 in the advanced. So they go through these different levels and achieve the kind of different badges that come alongside that. And the great thing about achievements as well is you can really easily on the Achievers tab see who's got it. So you can quickly relay this back to your senior leadership team to say, we've created this advanced level, they have to do all of this, and we've actually had 15 people already achieve that certain level. So some really awesome stuff there. Cool. So to recap, we recommend for gamification side of things, setting up the leaderboard and achievements for launch and keeping them as an ongoing engagement tactic to instill learning into the company culture. And then just add more features as you go to engage learners. We've got such a wide range to choose from to suit your organizational needs. So we constantly are sending out updates about what's coming in the product. So definitely look out for those and you can see what could work in your company. So the last part that I wanted to talk about, so step 4 of our 4 steps today for its successful launch is communication. So the key is to inform, explain, and implement. And I want to take a look at Deloitte's numbers to start with. So some of the highlights from Deloitte is they have 10,000 plus employees on EdApp. They've returned 5,000 plus hours of learning for the L&D team, 99% positive feedback from their learners, and they have 50 plus authors. So you can see what like a beast of an operation they're doing at Deloitte in terms of their learning program. But this all started with a really, really strong launch plan from the Deloitte team to create that learning habit within the Deloitte team, the Deloitte wider team. So let's first look at our communication top tips. So my first one is keep it simple. When you're using your forms of communication to the learner, we want to make sure that our messages are clear and concise so that they understand what's expected from them and also the instructions that they're given. The second one is around explaining the benefit to the individual. And because we want that buy-in from our learners to take part in the program, the way to do this is by telling them what the benefit is for them by taking part. And then the final one is about using multiple channels. So to make sure that the learners are hearing about the learning on EdApp from several sources, it means that they'll be prepared and they'll also be excited to get started, because that's all we want. So let's have a look at these in a bit more detail. And I first wanted to show you an email example. So this is an email template that I've just thrown together on Canva to give you an idea of what it could look like. And in the email in our email that follows up from this webinar, I can give you access to like this template. You can use it and tweak anything you want, and then use it to send out to your customers, to your learners. So what I've done in this email, tried to make it as clear as possible, obviously taking the example of Adidas to brand the email template. And the first thing that I've done is obviously provided context to what benefit the program will have for the learner. So we can see at the top, I've just done like 2 sentences worth and saying we're providing a new training platform to ensure you have all the resources to feel supported in your role at Adidas. The next thing down is we have some super clear login instructions. You can see we've got the QR code or tell them where to visit. You can then see that we've got some screenshots after that should walk them through the process. So that would assist the steps. There's also a section at the bottom to work out where they need to go with questions. And other things we kind of recommend with emails is obviously a kind of teaser. So before you send out this, which would probably be your launch email, can you think of like sending some teaser emails before to say like EdApp's coming, we can do this, this, and this with it. This is what you're expecting to see. And you can even pull some of that content plan into it to say like, this is the course that we've got coming up. And then obviously once it's launched, thinking about some kind of follow-up email to get any of those stragglers who may not have yet come onto the platform. So talking about the teaser side of things, we actually have a really great new asset, which I'm going to play in 1 second. And you guys are going to actually be some of the first people to watch this video. It's something that our lovely marketing team have recently finished, and it gives a really great overview of EdApp to get everyone excited about using the platform. So I'm just going to make sure that this is also sharing my audio. 1 second. I think that should be working. So I'm going to click play. Let me know if anyone's having trouble hearing it, but let's get that going.
Life is about to get a whole lot simpler. Meet EdApp, your new learning solution. We're here to help deliver top-notch training to your teams, no matter what the job or where your team is, so they can do their best work. We know it's not a one-size-fits-all. So when it comes to creating courses, you've got options. Choose from the library of over 1,000 pre-made courses, all ready for you to brand and share straight away. If you've got the time and content, jump straight into our course creation tool. Add text, videos, images, to dozens of interactive templates. And if you don't have time to DIY, our course designers can do the heavy lifting for you. It's kind of our thing. Micro lessons can be completed from any device, in any language, in just a few minutes a day. Jam-packed with gamified features. Engage your learners and drive higher completion rates. Easily share ideas, tips, and feedback in a dedicated space. And for the training that can't be done digitally, there are ways for you to still do that and track it all in one place. And for those topics that your team absolutely needs to know, there's quizzes and notifications to help them remember. Keep on top of certification and all analytics via the admin portal. Monitor at a group level or drill down to see where individual learners might need a bit more help. You've already got the great ideas. We're just here to get them in front of the right people in the right format.
Cool. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. Like I said, it's a brand new video, and you guys can find it on our YouTube channel. I'll also send the link in the email to follow up after this. But it's going to be a really, really great video to have just to send out to your learners, to send out to your senior leadership team, like any of your stakeholders, as it just kind of gives an overview of EdApp and how it kind of works. Next one. Cool. So moving on to other channels. So we know that other channels are very, very crucial to create a well-rounded comms rollout experience. And the whole point of it is to hit learners from all angles so that they know EdApp's coming, they're excited about it, and when it does come, they know exactly how to do it. So some other channels that you could go for are like push notifications, which you can do through EdApp once they're signed in. You can use SMS, internal platforms, Teams, Outlook, Slack messages, posters in the office or on site. We also recommend, if you can get like messages from your senior leadership team, like a short video, you could pop that into the one of your first courses, and that would allow you to have like them talking about EdApp and how impactful it's going to be. If you ever have like a company-wide call, use like a video like I just showed you in order to show what EdApp is, get people excited about it, in-person launch sessions, and getting managers on board. So we often recommend doing like maybe a couple of days or a week earlier than the full launch, get some key stakeholders to use EdApp first. So this could be the managers, or this could be some early adopters, whatever kind of works in your organization, because that means they're going to be the people who are pushing EdApp to the workforce, and getting them on board early makes them understand the platform. So when it comes to them showing the learners how to do it, they already know what they're doing, and it's super simple for them to get everyone on board. Awesome. So just onto the summary of today's webinar. So just to kind of summarize, I wanted to just highlight from my time at EdApp things that have worked with clients, and I've launched hundreds of clients. So I just wanted to highlight some kind of key things that we always see work well. So creating excitement to show your learners that you care about their safety and personal development, and kind of shows why you're creating this learning program. And like we've already talked about, that can be done through those comms platforms, videos. You can create lessons about it in EdApp, but just get them really excited about using it. The second one is get key stakeholders on board. And like I mentioned on the last slide, this could be giving them early access or creating some kind of competition between them to see who can get most of their learners on the platform, as they are going to be the key drivers to the success of the program. And then the last one is always bring it back to the why. So why is it going to be a good thing for my learners or my managers or my CEO, and how is it going to benefit their role? How is it going to benefit their personal development, and what outcome will they see by taking part in this learning platform? So that kind of wraps up today's session. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that we have so many other cool features available to you, especially new ones that are coming out either very soon or later this year. So practical assessments, which is where you can complete in-person assessments to test the effectiveness of the learner's micro-learning. You could also use Brain Boost, which is already available, which is our spaced repetition feature that can ensure that we slow down that forgetting curve for all your learners. Or we also have group training that will allow you to use EdApp to present content to a group and then track their learning, track their attendance, through the platform. So lots of cool stuff coming out throughout the year. And I want to thank you guys for attending the webinar. We've got a bit of time for a Q&A now. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to just pop them into the chat or the Q&A section, and I would be happy to answer them. Okay. I'm not sure if anyone's writing any questions, but if not, thank you again for joining today's webinar. We really appreciate your time. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on live chat, or you can email us at support@edapp.com, and we'll be around for another like 5-10 minutes for questions. But if not, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.